In the opulent palace of the great pharaoh Amenhotep III in Thebes, a child of strange appearance was born. His skull was unusually elongated, and his frame was slender and frail. The midwives exchanged hushed whispers in the dim light, and the priests traded looks filled with apprehension. This child, given the name Amenhotep IV, bore no resemblance to the strong, godlike princes who had come before him. The young prince grew up in the looming shadow of his elder brother, the handsome and powerful crown prince destined for the throne. But fate, it seemed, had a different path in mind. When his brother died unexpectedly, the physically weak Amenhotep IV was suddenly thrust into the line of succession, becoming the heir to the throne of Egypt, the most formidable empire of the ancient world. On the sacred night of his coronation, the young man stood before the colossal golden statue of Amun within the grand temple of Karnak. Priests encircled him, their chants echoing through the hallowed halls as thick clouds of incense filled the air. But in that moment, something shifted within the young king's gaze. He stared at the idol of Amun with cold, detached eyes, then glanced past the towering pillars to the rising sun outside the window. "That," he whispered, almost inaudibly, "is the true God." 3 years went by. Amenhotep IV grew increasingly eccentric and reclusive. He would spend countless hours gazing at the solar disk, carrying on conversations with it as if he were receiving messages that no one else could perceive. One evening, he commanded the high priest of Amun to appear before him at the palace. The old priest, who held more power in Egypt than anyone save the pharaoh himself, arrived full of confidence. But the words he was about to hear would send a chill of dread through his very soul. "Aten has spoken to me," the king declared, his voice calm yet unyielding. "He has revealed that all other gods are falsehoods. He alone is the one true God. And I am his prophet. Your Majesty, this is utter madness." The high priest protested, his voice trembling. "Amun is the king of the gods. His temples are the heart of Egypt. His priesthood has served the divine for millennia." The king offered a cold, dismissive smile. "You serve yourselves, priest. Your temples hold more wealth than my own treasuries. You manipulate the people with fear and superstition. But this is about to end." The very next day, the king issued a decree that sent shockwaves across the kingdom. He was changing his name from Amenhotep, meaning Amun is pleased, to Akhenaten, meaning beneficial to Aten. And this was only the beginning of his revolution. A wave of terror began to wash over Egypt. Akhenaten dispatched his soldiers to every temple throughout the land, armed with a single, clear order: obliterate the name of Amun from every inscription, every statue, and every papyrus scroll. With chisels and hammers in hand, the soldiers stormed into Egypt's most sacred temples. They scaled the massive columns, painstakingly chipping away the name of Amun, hieroglyph by hieroglyph. Even the name of Akhenaten's own deified father was not spared from this iconoclastic fury. The people were utterly stunned. From the farmers toiling in the fields to the merchants in the bustling markets and the nobles in their grand palaces, horrified whispers spread like wildfire: "The pharaoh has lost his mind." But Akhenaten was far from finished. He proceeded to shut down the Temple of Karnak, the wealthiest religious complex in the entire world. He cast out thousands of priests. He seized vast tracts of land and immense hoards of gold. Then, he made his most audacious proclamation yet. "I will abandon Thebes," he announced. "This city is polluted with lies. I will build a new capital, a pure city, dedicated to Aten and Aten alone." In the stark emptiness of the desert, hundreds of kilometers north of Thebes, Akhenaten brought his vision to life. He called it Akhetaten, the horizon of Aten. It was a city conjured from nothing, pure and unblemished by the memory of the old, false gods. Tens of thousands of workers toiled day and night under the blistering sun. Palaces, temples, grand homes, and wide avenues rose from the sand. At the very heart of the city stood a colossal temple, entirely open to the sky, designed so that the rays of Aten could shine directly upon the central altar, with no roof to impede them. Akhenaten relocated his entire royal court to this new, isolated city, his famously beautiful wife, Nefertiti, his 6 daughters, all bearing the same strangely elongated heads as their father, his ministers, and his loyal soldiers. He compelled the nobility to construct their homes in Akhetaten, forcing them to abandon Thebes whether they wished to or not. Within his new city, Akhenaten enforced bizarre new conventions. The traditional art style, which had for centuries depicted pharaohs as idealized, flawless gods, was cast aside. He commanded his artists to portray reality, to show him and his family as they truly were. In fact, he insisted they exaggerate their physical deformities, their swollen bellies, their wide hips, and their long, narrow faces. The truth, he would often say. Aten desires truth, not beautiful lies. But while Akhenaten was utterly consumed by his religious crusade, the great empire of Egypt was beginning to crumble around him. Beyond Egypt's borders, the empire was disintegrating. Vassal kings in Syria and Palestine sent increasingly desperate pleas. The Hittites are attacking our cities. Send the army before it is too late. But Akhenaten showed no interest. He was far too busy composing hymns of praise to his god, the Aten. Within Egypt, the economy was collapsing. The closure of the temples had resulted in a massive loss of jobs. Priests, scribes, artisans, and farmers who had depended on the vast temple economies for their livelihoods were now left destitute. A profound sense of fear gripped the populace. The Egyptians had always believed that the gods protected them and guided them into the afterlife. Without the proper rituals, without the priests to perform them, what would become of their souls after they died? The exiled priests of Amun began to gather in secret, fanning the flames of discontent in the darkness. The curse of the gods is upon us, they whispered to the terrified people. Amun will exact his revenge upon this heretic pharaoh. After a tumultuous reign of 17 years, Akhenaten died. The exact circumstances of his death remain shrouded in mystery. Some contemporary accounts suggest he succumbed to a strange illness. Others whisper of a more sinister end, that he was assassinated by those who could no longer tolerate his madness. But more important than how he died was what transpired in the aftermath. His young son, Tutankhamun, ascended to the throne at the tender age of 9. The old priests, who had been patiently waiting in the shadows, saw their chance and seized it. You must restore the glory of Amun, they urged the child king. You must be the one to save Egypt from your father's dreadful curse. The boy, terrified and utterly alone, acquiesced to their demands. He changed his name to Tutankhamun. He ordered the temples of the old gods to be reopened and their wealth restored. The royal court abandoned the desert city of Akhetaten and returned to Thebes. Then, the true, calculated revenge began. The priests of Amun were not content to simply let Akhenaten be forgotten. Their goal was to completely and utterly erase him from the annals of history, as if he had never existed at all. They sent work crews back to Akhetaten. The city was systematically dismantled. They tore down the temple stone by stone. They smashed every statue of the heretic king. They chiseled away his inscriptions. The city that had taken years to build was reduced to ruins in a matter of months. Across the length of Egypt, they meticulously removed Akhenaten's name from official king lists. They expunged the years of his reign from historical records. Any monument that bore his name was defaced, and any statue of him was shattered into 1,000 pieces. But their final act of vengeance was the most damning of all. Akhenaten's mummy vanished. In ancient Egyptian belief, the preservation of the physical body was absolutely essential for the soul's journey in the afterlife. Without a body, the soul could not survive. It would face the second death, a true and final death, an eternal annihilation. Did the priests steal his mummy and desecrate it? Did they burn it, ensuring his soul would have no vessel to return to? The truth is lost to the sands of time. But by their actions, they sought to condemn Akhenaten not just in this world, but in the next, forever.